Amid a blazing city, terrified people gaze upward at the sky, horrified by the spectacle. A grotesque creature materializes, and they quickly grasp it's an apex predator. A horrifying fusion of multiple beasts, it made them wonder just how many creatures it had consumed. Without warning, the abomination's jaws part, gathering energy for a devastating attack. It then unleashes the beam, instantly shattering the windows of nearby skyscrapers. The deafening roar causes civilians to cry out in agony, asking where the guild's heroes are. In the ensuing chaos, a frantic mother begs for help. Her daughter was left behind in the turmoil. Police officers scramble to evacuate the danger zone, ordering everyone to fall back. Just then, a mysterious silhouette emerges from the clouds, forming a sphere of azure energy. It is our hero, Shu, soaring toward the monster to engage in battle. The young man launches his assault, colliding with the creature's ray in a massive explosion. The sheer force of the impact injures our hero's hand. Despite the searing pain, he remains resolute, preparing to continue the fight. When the monster fires another volley, narrowly evades it by soaring through the sky. The beast appears completely unscathed, without a single mark on its body. Seeing this, our hero materializes a blade of pure blue energy for close-quarters combat. Shu darts forward, aiming a direct strike at the giant monster's head. The attack lands a clean hit, and a smirk plays on his lips as he sees the beast recoil. He touches down, analyzing how the creature wields different forms of magic. The abomination's head is wounded, but it still appears formidable and ready for another round. He imagines himself as the ultimate ability user, capable of mastering any power. In his mind, he is the hero of everyone's dreams, a truly grand figure. But the scene shifts dramatically to a peaceful and quiet residential neighborhood. Abruptly, on a nearby bridge, someone screams desperately for help. A panicked woman pleads for someone to rescue her daughter from imminent danger. At that moment, a boy in a red cape appears, declaring he is on his way to save the little damsel. The mother's frantic cries for her daughter echo as the drama on the bridge intensifies. The little girl is dangling perilously, but our protagonist reaches her just in the nick of time. He holds her securely, calm in the terrified child who is sobbing with fear. The young man hands back her tiny Shu saying, "I'm glad you're safe, princess." This is Akutagawa's Shu, a student in his 11th year of high school. The little girl gazes at him, her eyes sparkling, completely captivated by her savior. However, a bully appears, yelling at Shu and shattering his heroic moment. The hulking teen complains that he ordered Shu to run through the neighborhood in nothing but his underwear. A blonde girl chimes in, asking who gave him permission to wear clothes at all. She settles up to him and sneers, "Monkeys don't wear clothes." In response, Shu lets out a peculiar laugh, slightly unnerving the girl. He then states that this isn't clothing, but the dream of a knight saving his princess. The little girl he rescued looks on, unable to make sense of the situation. The bullies are taken aback, and their leader asks if he's lost his mind. The lead thug angrily grabs our hero's cape, irritated by his strange demeanor. He bellows at Shu, telling him to speak plainly because he can't understand a word he's saying. Right then, 2 police officers arrive to break it up, telling the teens to knock it off. But the blonde teen ignores the officers, instead pointing smugly to a badge on his school uniform. Seeing the emblem, the officers' expressions turn grave. They realize he's an ability user. The bully boasts about being accepted into the guild while still in high school. The guards caution him to take it easy, reminding him that the Protection Act has its limits. The blonde teen scoffs at them and, with a mocking grin, tells Shu not to fight back. He then yanks Shu by the hair and invites him to play little baseball, his tone dripping with menace. He introduces himself as Gata Takashi and reveals his rank C ability Magic Ball. What follows is a harsh turn of events, completely altering the tone. It is explained that 60 years prior, dungeons filled with monsters emerged across the globe. Their appearance unleashed a horde of creatures, plunging the world in unprecedented chaos. Yet, as a survival instinct, humanity began to evolve, awakening latent powers. People were born with special abilities, and managing these dungeons became a global priority. Consequently, laws were swiftly enacted to govern this new societal reality. Abilities were ranked from S to E to protect and guide their users. One such law which forbade low ranks from opposing high ranks spread widespread tyranny. The abuse of power became the norm, a way for the strong to maintain their standing over the weak. A rigid class society was re-established where the weak are dismissed and oppressed by the powerful. The scene returns to the bridge, where another assailant strikes our hero with a gust of wind. This is Agarashi, who wields his rank D ability, Storm, with a malicious grin. The blow hits Shu squarely, slamming him to the ground and leaving him covered in injuries. Before he can recover, he's struck again, this time sent flying into the bridge's railing. Lying there, wounded, he sees the blonde girl leaping toward him to continue the assault. She descends with a flying kick at maximum velocity, shrieking with excitement. The boy is hit yet again, and she taunts him for his inability to fly, use magic, or defend himself. Mercilessly, the girl grinds her foot onto Shu's head, humiliating him before the onlookers. Her name is Tobitamari, and she declares that a human without an ability is no better than a worm. Her friend remarks she's getting a little too carried away with the situation. Despite being battered, Shu mutters that his vision is failing, but that they are all the same. Gata prepares another attack, ordering the others to hold Shu down as he feigns concern for the little girl. The child is hiding nearby, watching the entire ordeal with tear-filled eyes, absolutely terrified. The bully readies his energy ball, remarking that it's an honor to play another round. But Shu provokes him, calling him an heist with no control, who can only rely on his ability. In spite of the pain, a defiance spreads across the protagonist's face, intended to infuriate his tormentor. He adds that Gotas seems to be an expert at hitting batters, earning him a punch to the stomach. The blonde teen, enraged by the taunt, calls Shu a useless human and a parasite on society. He lunges for another strike, screaming that Shu's only purpose is to be his punching bag. As he takes the blows, the protagonist thinks he just needs to endure and act as if everything is fine. With a bloodied mouth, he tells himself that a hero must never show weakness or cause anxiety. Gota's rage boils over as he calls him powerless trash and prepares another magical assault. At that, Shu has a flashback of his drunken father calling him the very same thing. Despite the painful memories, Shu maintains a cold, determined gaze fixed on his attackers. He remembers being a small child, suffering from the constant mistreatment at home. His father would blame him for being born skill-less, which prevented them from getting government aid. The man would also say it was Shu's fault that his mother left, that she had abandoned them because of him. With pure hatred in his eyes, his father would scream, wishing little Shu had never been born. The scene cuts to his apartment building, the window framing the loneliness of the night. Inside his cluttered room, hero posters adorn the walls and books are strewn across the floor. His notes detail studies on how to generate magic circuits in his palm to create powers from scratch. Lying in bed covered in bruises, the young man would wonder why he was born without an ability. Even powerless, he continued his studies, calculating energy loss in the air and its trajectory. The boy analyzed the limits of the human body, seeking ways to extract its maximum potential. He thinks to himself that he could wield those abilities far better than these thugs. Then he recalls the one game he won as a child, the memory that inspired him to be a hero. He always dreamed of having a job that allowed him to use every type of magic and master all skills. This legendary class was the sage of the stage, the hero everyone looked up to, the one he aspired to be. Abruptly, a mysterious figure begins to collapse slowly, emerging from the darkness. A solitary figure been watching the boy's memories unfold as if in a private movie screening. Seated in a plush cinema chair, the masked man smiles, finding it all quite amusing. He then urges the performer to suffer more, promising that this agony will forge him into something stronger. The enigmatic man declares that the very blade that torments him will one day become his source of power. The scene then transitions to another of the protagonist's memories, this time on a baseball field. We see the bully, Gata, using his ability to conjure a purple energy bat. He swings the bat, striking a classmate and sending the boy flying. The tormentor scoffs at the fallen student, remarking that he was an excellent backstop for the ball. Gata then turns his fury on another student, complaining that he should have let the ball go by. A classmate attempts to intervene, telling him he's being too intense and needs to chill out. Our hero observes it all, thinking how much classes have changed over the past 60 years. The focus is no longer on physical health, but on cultivating the student's unique abilities. Even the teacher uses his powers, supervising the class from a floating platform high above. One student ignites his bat with a fire ability as the pitcher winds up an energy ball. Modern society is now built entirely around the constant use of these special skills. In the midst of this, Shu braces himself to catch the flaming ball hurtling toward him. The attack slams into his glove with immense force, creating a powerful impact. The flaming ball burns right through the leather, and he winces from the pain in his hand. Other students jeer at him, saying that hitting in his direction is a guaranteed score. Frustrated, the protagonist rips off his ruined glove and slams it onto the ground in anger. Gota screams at him, asking how many times this has happened, and orders him to retrieve the ball. The teacher tries to de-escalate, but the bully tells him to shut his mouth, calling him a rank D teacher. Ignoring the insult, the instructor tells Shu to head to the nurse's office and get his injuries treated. Shu walks away with a faint smile, thinking that at least they have plenty of energy. As he leaves, the other students mock him, laughing at his public humiliation. The aggressors continue to snicker, commenting on what an easy target the boy is. They remark what a pain it is to deal with trash, and that he's only good for blowing off steam. One of the bullies says he couldn't imagine living such a pathetic life and wonders why Shu even bothers. Covered in bandages, our hero walks alone down the hall feeling like absolute garbage. Back in the classroom, a female student asks her friends if they've heard the latest news. The girl reveals that a rank S dungeon has materialized on Mount Doka, leaving everyone stunned. Shu overhears and now understands why the city's sirens were wailing all night. It's then explained that dungeons can be either fixed or randomly generated throughout the world. These break dungeons that appear from nowhere pose a grave threat and require immediate investigation. A specialized team uses a device to measure the magical power radiating from the portal. The device registers a rank S, and just like skills, the danger level ranges from S to E. This is because the strength of the monsters within is almost always proportional to the power reading. The key difference is that a random dungeon vanishes once its final boss is defeated. If a dungeon is left unchecked, its creatures will eventually pour out, forcing the government to dispatch heroes. A student notes that the real danger lies in sending underpowered heroes, which can drag the mission on indefinitely. Gota dismisses the concern, but at that moment, Shu enters the classroom, and his friends look worried. The young man claims he fell again, and the club president jokes he should probably see a doctor about that. A girl named Saseu, who has a protection skill, asks if he's alright, noting he's always injured. Shu laughs it off, saying he's just used to getting hurt in the same spot, which confuses his friend. She completely misinterprets his words, shockingly concluding he has some kind of injury fetish. Sosai then apologizes for her own weakness and pulls out a utility knife to satisfy her friend's needs. With a crazed expression, she says she will stab him with all her strength to help him. The protagonist panics, insisting she's misunderstood again and that's not what he meant at all. He stops her, telling her to put that idea on hold and focus on their club script reading. But the president interjects, announcing he has something extremely important to tell them. Our hero and his friend look at him, puzzled by his sudden gravity. It's explained they are members of the drama club, a group that performs without using any abilities. It's a small club, just the three of them, but the protagonist finds great comfort there. He enjoys acting. It allows him to become someone else and briefly escape his difficult reality. As the day ends, the president prepares to share some very unwelcome news with his friends. The young man reveals their drama club is being shut down, leaving Shu in utter disbelief. Seated at a table, the protagonist demands an explanation, unable to process the news. His friend explains that traditional theater is considered obsolete and the school sees no reason to fund their club. The announcement devastates Sue, leaving him completely shattered and at a loss for words. To make matters worse, the president adds that both he and Sasai have been invited to join the main drama club. With a sad smile, he confirms what Sue already suspected as a skill-less student. He was not invited. Though crushed, Sue forces a smile and says it's fine as they wouldn't want someone like him anyway. He grabs his bag and lies, claiming he was getting bored with the club and its limitations. His friends look at him with sorrow and concern, not buying his act for a second. With his back turned to them, the protagonist declares he's had enough of theater and is leaving. He gives his friend a pat on the shoulder and wishes him luck in the new drama club. Sasi sees through the facade, realizing her senpai said all that for their sake. As the sun dips below the horizon, our hero walks the city streets alone, feeling utterly lost. The crushing weight of his reality settles on his shoulders, leaving him without direction. Suddenly, Gota appears from behind, clamping a hand on his shoulder with an unfriendly grin. The bully grips him tightly and says with a threatening tone, "Let me borrow your face for a bit." The scene shifts to a forest at night, the full moon casting an eerie glow in the darkness. Inside the dungeon, an armored guard lies on the ground, utterly defeated. Gotamus is allowed, wondering how security for a rank S dungeon could be so lax. He and his friends reveal they're just on watch duty until the main guild arrives. Mari then voices her concern, asking if they'll be alright since entering a dungeon without permission is illegal. The blonde teen gestures to Shu, explaining he brought him alone to be the scapegoat if things go south. He then promises to negotiate with the school to save the drama club if their little excursion is a success. Our hero is taken aback, thinking that the school can't possibly ignore a rank C user's request. With that promise hanging in the air, the group of students ventures into the dangerous rank S dungeon. One of the boys expresses hesitation, but Gota reassures him, saying the monster's strength increases gradually. A chart illustrates the dungeon's layout: slimes, then goblins with stronger creatures on each subsequent floor. Gota claims that if things get too dicey, they can simply turn around and leave. He's after a rare item to make a splashy diva in the guild, just like a famous hero he admires. With this plan set, the students proceed deeper into the dungeon's corridors. The protagonist, however, can't shake a feeling of suspicion about this whole risky endeavor. On the first floor, they encounter a swarm of slimes, just as they had anticipated. These gooey creatures, however, have bizarre eyes and a far more menacing appearance than usual. One of the thugs invites Shu to join the fight, but he declines, citing bad memories. At that, Gota prepares an energy blast while Mari throws another taunter hero's way. The bully attacks the monsters without mercy, declaring they have no time for games. But in an instant, the aggressor's expression turns to shock. His attack had no effect. A powerful shockwave erupts, sending the entire group flying backward. The mysterious energy courses through one of the boys, leaving him completely paralyzed. Our protagonist's eyes widen in disbelief as he tries to comprehend what is happening. A colossal, terrifying shadow looms over them, revealing a monstrous and bizarre creature. Even the dungeon slimes seem petrified by the presence of this unknown monster. The students are paralyzed with fear, wondering what kind of horrifying creature stands before them. This monster is unlike anything recorded, a complete unknown. The protagonist simply clicks his tongue, annoyed by this unexpected and perilous turn of events. He reasons that if this monster is on the first floor, it can't be that much of a threat. Gota then gets ready to attack the beast with his magic ball, hoping to end the fight quickly. He hurls his attack with all his might, but the creature casually parries the blow with its sword. The enemy's blade meets the attack, resulting in a large explosion of purple energy. The bully is utterly stunned to see his signature move deflected so effortlessly. Even Shu is surprised that a rank C ability could be countered so easily. In the next moment, the creature prepares a swift and wholly unexpected counterattack. The monster reveals its true form, summoning a halo of blue energy swords that float around it. Mori panics, unable to process the incredible sight before her. The creature manipulates the blades like a puppet master, ready to begin its performance. Igarashi wonders if the monster is just toying with them, as it seems to be acting with such ease. The enemy then directs its floating swords upward, preparing a new assault. It snatches one of the blades from the air, readying a more direct strike. The monster unleashes a mighty slash, firing a wave of crimson energy straight at them. The attack strikes Gota square in the face, gravely injuring his left eye. The force of the blow is so immense that even our protagonist is sent tumbling by the impact. All the other students are thrown back by the powerful shock wave. The creature then conjures a sphere of blue energy in its hand, preparing its next move. It fires off a barrage of blasts at one of the boys, who desperately scrambles to dodge. The student dives to the ground, narrowly avoiding the attacks that detonate around him. Mari then yells at Shu to do something to provide some cover for them, but Igarashi complains that the low ceiling is hindering him from using his ability at full power. Our protagonist watches the desperate struggle unfold with a tense and worried expression. Suddenly, the monster strikes Mari, who tumbles through the air as blue lightning crackles around her. The creature fixes its glowing eye on the girl, poised for the final blow. Seeing this, she was frozen in shock, unsure how to react to the imminent threat. However, the blonde girl manages to arrest her fall and prepares for an aerial counter-assault. Using her jump ability, she plummets down, aiming for a devastating strike on the enemy. But the monster sidesteps with ease, and her attack slams into the ground, causing a huge crater. Witnessing this, Igarashi is terrified, wondering just what kind of monster they are facing. He follows up with his windstorm, enveloping the enemy in a vortex of green energy. But the creature defends itself yet again, using its blade to effortlessly slice through the gale. Its eye glows intensely as it locks onto the student with a deadly menacing gaze. At this, Higurashi screams in terror, realizing his attack was completely ineffective. Just then, Goda thanks them for buying him time and begins to channel a new magic attack. He focuses all his energy into his hands for a final desperate and powerful strike. Fully charged, the young man unleashes his attack with everything he has, hoping to defeat the monster. Goda fires 2 orbs of purple energy that speed directly toward the creature. The enemy is engulfed in a series of magical energy explosions. His friends watch from a safe distance, praying the attack has finally worked. Shu maintains a grim expression as smoke from the blast billows across the chamber. Goda, panning from the effort, manages a smile and asks if that was enough. But the creature emerges from the smoke and lunges with a stunningly fast sword strike. Reflecting the monster's eye is the bully's face, contorted in absolute terror. He hastily conjures an energy blade to parry the enemy's blow. The aggressor shouts that it's unbelievable, a monster this strong shouldn't be on the first floor. He then notices the creature is completely ignoring our hero. Shu deduces that the enemy reacts to magical energy, attacking in a semi-automatic fashion. The blonde girl asks what he means by that, not grasping the implication. Realization dawns on Goda, someone without powers wouldn't trigger an attack. He orders Shu to restrain it. The protagonist hesitates, conflicted about saving the very bully who has made his life miserable. Seeing his hesitation, Goda grows desperate, offering a hurried apology and pleading for help. Shu thinks it's a selfish way to say sorry, but he decides to act nonetheless. He dashes forward and wraps his arms around the bizarre creature from behind, trying to immobilize it. Shu yells that abandoning them would make him no better than they are, telling the blonde teen to attack now. But the aggressor just flashes a cruel smile and calls our hero a complete fool. The scene reveals the bully is standing far from the fight, with no intention of helping whatsoever. Our protagonist glances back, utterly betrayed by his classmate. Goda taunts him, saying a powerless person could never be a real hero. He continues his jeers, telling Shu to have fun playing with the monster. At this, the creature turns its attention to the protagonist, who struggles to hold it back. The monster's eyes flare as it thinks that the skill, lesser forbidden from even having dreams. In the next instant, the creature twists and impales our hero's back with its hand. The young man is lifted into the air, thinking he can't even dream of being a hero. The enemy's mass becomes splattered with the protagonist's blood as he stares, horrified. Suddenly, the scene shifts. A gloved hand appears to be offering something to another. With this, Shu's eyes transform, and his perspective on the situation seems to warp. He finds himself standing alone on a theater stage, bathed in the light of a single spotlight. The young man scans the empty auditorium and wonders where he is. A shadowy figure emerges from behind the curtains, remarking that his performance was incredible. The masked man sits in the audience, stating that Shu is the talent he's been searching for. He then mockingly calls him a first-class comedian. The mysterious figure reveals he has been keenly interested in the young man for quite some time. Because of this, he orchestrated the entire situation to test him personally. The protagonist wonders if this man is powerful enough to control the dungeon monster. The very same creature is slumped in one of the theater seats, looking quite dejected. The man says the boy betrayed his final act of kindness by wishing for despair. But Shu counters that it's too late for that, he always knew it would end this way. With a satisfied grin, the masked man says that's precisely what he wanted to hear. He accuses the young man of merely acting as if there was hope, all while hiding his true self. Our hero meets his gaze with a serious and determined expression, remaining silent. The mysterious man says he has the perfect role for someone like Shu to play. The protagonist is confused, unable to understand the strange figure's proposal. The masked man explains that he watched comedies for so long, he eventually grew bored. He claims that human imagination is finite and incapable of creating anything truly original. But one day, he had an epiphany that would completely alter his worldview. The figure realized that the unscripted life of a human was the ultimate form of entertainment, and the greatest comedy of all is watching someone abandoned by fate have their dreams crushed. Shu then understands his part, saying that's what he has become for this man entertainment. However, the masked man insists the boy has misunderstood the situation entirely. He declares that the young man's fight is far from over and makes a very tempting offer. The figure promises to grant him the power needed to overcome all his suffering. With that power in his hands, he wants to see just how far the boy will go before he inevitably breaks. The protagonist is stunned, asking if the man is actually giving him an ability. The figure replies cryptically, "Wes, no." He then reminds the young man of the monster's attack, suggesting he should have realized the truth by now. The man reveals his familiar attacked him because he already possesses the latent power of a skill. What he's truly offering is the key to unlocking and properly using this hidden power. The young man reflects on his past, admitting the man was right about his despair. But he asserts that if he had truly given up, he wouldn't have clung to a facade of hope for so long. With newfound resolve, the young man decides to rewrite the script of his own tragedy. Facing the mysterious figure, our hero accepts the offer, declaring he will fight for him. But with a smirk, he warns that the script won't go as the man expects, a response the masked man seems to enjoy. Instantly, the entire theater set shatters around them, and they begin to plummet into a dark void. The dungeon creature extends its hand toward the masked man, a loyal and obedient servant. The mysterious man simply leans back in his chair, looking thoroughly pleased with the show. Our protagonist lands firmly back on the floor of the perilous, dark dungeon. He vows to rise from the depths and show the man what a true tragedy looks like. A slight smile touches the masked man's lips as he hears the boy's audacious declaration. With a bizarre grin, he thinks to himself that this young man's performance is indeed very interesting. The scene cuts back to the forest, where the aggressors casually comment that Shu's end was inevitable. Goto complains that the guy was useless to the last, not even serving as a good stress reliever. The blonde girl adds with a hint of sadness that he was her favorite toy at school. The bully then considers his next targets, contemplating going after our hero's friends. Igarashi mentions he likes the first-year girls and suggests he could have some fun with them. Suddenly, a mysterious voice icica's from the shadows, calling them pathetic for being mere followers. At this, the three thugs spin around, completely shocked by the sudden appearance. Goto stares in disbelief, asking if the person standing before them is actually alive. Our protagonist emerges, leaning against a tree with a hand pressed to his wounded chest. He says that if this is just about tormenting him, he might have let it go. But with a dark glare, he warns that he will not forgive the two assassins they sent. Igarashi retorts who's gonna finish who and prepares a winged attack. The aggressor is furious that he survived, screaming that Shu didn't get taken out enough. He then unleashes his gale with full force, intending to end the fight for good, but our hero effortlessly deflects the attack with a single wave of his hand. The blast of wind is redirected, slamming into the forest trees with explosive force. Reflected in Higarashi's eyes is the attack's aftermath in his own face, contorted in utter shock. He's thrown to the ground by the impact and stares at the protagonist, terrified. Shu then states that people like him, who oppress the weak, are the very embodiment of a class-based society. The young hero looks down on him and says, "You have nothing, just like I used to." Igarashi remains on the ground, unable to process the incredible turn of events. The blonde girl stunned asks if our hero just used an ability. Goto realizes the power is the same type as his friends, but far more potent. With a grim expression, Shu points at them and announces that the play of vengeance is about to begin. He then uses the same wind ability to strike the downed aggressor. The protagonist unleashes the blast with a cold, determined gaze, intent on returning the pain. The attack hits Higashi squarely, and he screams in agony from the skill's overwhelming power. The aggressor slumps to his knees, utterly defeated, as the others watch in stunned silence. Goat and Mari are speechless, witnessing the skill-less boy with a powerful ability. The blonde girl, however, flashes a faint, chilling smile, appearing to relish the situation. With a strange and excited gleam in her eye, she calls out her fallen friend's name. Mari then uses her jump ability, launching herself from above with a sadistic and confident grin. She screams that there's no greater pleasure than crushing others to make them submit to her will. Our hero meets her gaze coldly and declares that unfortunately for her, that won't be happening. With his feet crackling with blue energy, he warns her that she will never step on him again. In the next instant, she leaps with incredible velocity, intercepting her mid-air and leaving the girl in shock. The blonde can't believe it, thinking that such speed can't possibly come from a normal ability. The protagonist stares her down with a serious and determined look as blue lightning arcs around him. Golda screams in desperation, demanding to know how he has another skill when everyone is only born with one. The young man then asks with a look of contempt if they truly haven't figured it out. With a smirk, he reveals that he is simply using the abilities they themselves used against him. A memory of the masked man surfaces, revealing the name of the boy's skill, learning. The figure explains that neither the government nor the guild is aware of this unique power's existence. Our hero listens in silence, processing the staggering revelation about himself. The masked man clarifies that no one knew because the wielder himself was oblivious to it. The ability allows the user to acquire and master any skill used against them. The young man realizes that all this time, he's just been absorbing skills until he grew to despise them, without understanding why. The mysterious figure explains that this is a natural limitation for a skill that only acquires powers. He then reveals that to actually use them a separate skill is required, one he is granting him now. The name of this new complementary power is reproduction, and he bestows it upon the young man. Back in the forest, Shu's hand glows with blue energy as lightning envelopes his feet. With that, he lands with a thunderous impact, ready for the next phase of the battle. The girl is utterly stunned, speechless at seeing him effortlessly counter her attack in mid-air. He then uses the jump ability to dart nimbly between the forest trees. The young man explains that he already understands the mechanics of her power just from watching it. He reveals her skill isn't flight but the ability to generate propulsive force in her legs to jump. He then demonstrates that he can release that power in any direction, allowing for complete freedom of movement. Golda is aghast, realizing that she has mastered their skills better than they ever could. But the blonde girl calls him tacky, saying his application of the power is ridiculous. She compares him to a buzzing fly, claiming he has absolutely no style in combat. The aggressor screams that she is superior to him, and that a true gentleman would never strike a defenseless woman. Out of nowhere, a slime emerges from the shadows and latches onto the girl from behind. The young woman panics, wondering what has grabbed her, as she can neither see nor feel it. Our hero explains it's a slime that completely blocks all 5 of the victim's senses. He adds that the monster is just toying with her and will release her before any real harm is done. A memory of his father flashes in his mind as he watches the scene unfold. The young man remarks that her ability is useless, only good for harassing small children. Trapped in a void of darkness, the girl loses all sense of space, unsure of what is real. Desperation sets in as she wonders how much time has passed, fearing she might be trapped forever. Overwhelmed by terror, the young woman screams from within the gooey creature. Shu comments that sensory deprivation is enough to drive anyone to the brink of insanity. He then states that a directionless space is the perfect prison for someone like her. With the girl neutralized, the slime discards her on the ground, and our hero turns his attention to the next target. Suddenly, the protagonist is struck in the face by a ball of purple magical energy. Goat emerges from the shadows, laughing that his surprise attack was a success. The bully's smile falters as he sees the young man has taken almost no damage from the blow. Shu asks if he has any pride as a baseball club member attacking from the shadows like that. The aggressor panics, realizing Shu has also copied his special ability. He then fires another magic ball with all his might, screaming with rage and desperation. But our hero simply bats the attack away with his bare hand as if it were a real ball. Two then begin a volley batting the energy spheres back and forth. Golda is bewildered, and Shu asks if he ever pays attention in class. He explains that magical energy dissipates due to air resistance and gravity. The same principle applies the moment the power leaves the caster's body. This is why the magic ball is more potent when delivered as a punch rather than a throw. The bully is rendered speechless, grinding his teeth in pure rage and frustration. He can't comprehend how someone using the skill for the first time could be better than him. Our hero replies that it's obvious, because this isn't the first time he's used these powers. A memory flashes, showing him mentally rehearsing these very moves over and over in his room. With that, Shu prepares for his final move, concentrating all his energy into one hand. Golda stares him down, his expression a mixture of pure hatred and fear, unsure how to counter. He combines all 3 powers, leaping and manipulating the air to minimize the magic ball's resistance. Seeing the superior technique, the bully screams in terror, unable to react to the imminent attack. The aggressor screams, "You're supposed to be powerless," as the blow connects squarely with his stomach. Our hero calls him an incompetent fool, stating he can wield these abilities far better. With that, he channels a massive amount of purple energy for the fight's finishing blow. The attack hits with overwhelming force, and the bully chokes, feeling agonizing pain course through his body. The young man says arrogance and laziness led to his defeat, for he never truly understood his own skill. He then points to his head, remarking it would have been better if he'd used his brain more often. The scene shifts entirely, now showing the apartment building where our hero lives on a bright, sunny morning. We see the young man waking up, still groggy from the previous night's events. He wonders if it was all a dream, but the sight of a magic ball forming in his hand confirms it was real. Outside, students are walking to school, chatting about their daily lives. He thinks that even with skills, the ritual of heading to school hasn't changed much over time. Other students are talking, one mentioning that clients feel more secure with high rankers. A low-rank boy is pressured into walking with a group to avoid being an outcast in his class. Our hero kicks a can on the sidewalk, thinking that this ugly aspect of society will never change either. Abruptly, he stops, overhearing the conversation of some students passing by. They're commenting that the guy has no power and that the school turns a blind eye to the bullying he endures. The protagonist wonders what would happen if he just decided to beat up all those guys. He stomps on the can, infusing it with energy, and questions if using his new skill would change anything. At that thought, a memory of the masked man's evil smile flashes in his mind. But before he can act, a hand suddenly snatches the can from the ground right in front of him. It's his friend Sasai who greets him with the can in hand, looking a bit shy. Our hero is startled by her sudden appearance, momentarily at a loss for words. She explains that their class is doing a cleanup drive and they need to collect cans. The young man feels she just saved him, unsure of what he might have done to those guys. Suddenly, the girl gestures for him to come closer, her expression now more serious and determined. She reveals that she and the president are discussing a way to prevent their club from being shut down. She reminds her that they are both slated to join the main drama club, so they don't need to worry. With a sad expression, the girl shows she doesn't agree with the idea of abandoning their club. She then says that the time they all spent together is incredibly precious to her as well. With tears welling in her eyes, his friend pleads with him not to say such lonely and sad things. Seeing her reaction, the protagonist feels a pang of guilt for being so cold and insensitive. He apologizes, realizing she felt the same passion for improving their craft together in that small room. The young man then thanks her for the cans, and she asks if he's part of the cleanup committee. He decides he must first deal with the adults who are interfering with his primary objective. The young man says the first step is to negotiate with the school about the drama club's future. Suddenly, he notices a hotel-like building and asks his friend what it is. A massive crowd of reporters is gathered at the site for the Rank S Dungeon strategy briefing. Several famous heroes make an appearance and fans scream wildly for the renowned Izuma-sama. A graphic explains that the government requests aid from guilds, which then form parties to tackle dungeons. The term Rank S party isn't official but is used as a high honor for teams composed of elite members. The generally accepted definition is a party where all members are rank or higher, with over half being Rank S. The protagonist's friend remarks that there are only 3 or 4 such groups in the entire country. Our hero then has a flashback of the masked man and the creature from the Rank S dungeon. This leaves the young man lost in thought, silently processing all the new information. His friend notices his distant expression and asks if something is wrong, but he quickly denies it. From afar, a mysterious figure watches the 2 students from within a black set, and inside the vehicle, a woman with purple hair and a mask observes them with a serious gaze. She seems to recognize the girl, thinking it can't possibly be who she suspects. Back in the classroom, the teacher seizes the rare opportunity to make an announcement. The instructor stands before the class, book in hand, ready to deliver the day's important news. He announces that the entire school will be observing the Rank S party's operation at the dungeon. Our protagonist mulls over the news while his classmates celebrate the unexpected day off. He then turns around and asks if Goda's in the hospital, since he's absent today. The blonde girl glares at him, saying he has some nerve to speak so calmly after what he did. With a cold expression, the young man stares back, showing no emotion. He then retorts that they also spoke calmly after everything they did to him. The girl points at the slime perched on her chest and demands he do something about it. He replies that the skill only summons the creature. If it's not leaving, it must have taken a liking to her. The girl retorts that making a friend who doesn't care about social hierarchy is a good thing for him. She then thinks to herself that the one truly ignoring the hierarchy is standing right in front of her. The young man ignores her comment and says Goda is supposed to go somewhere after being discharged from the hospital today. The blonde girl becomes flustered and yells that she doesn't know, insisting she's not the bully's girlfriend. The teacher then steps in, telling the girl to save her chatter for after class. The young woman blushes with embarrassment as she looks at him with a slightly altered expression. She tells him to remember this, and the young man wonders what he did to earn her ire. The scene then transitions to an abandoned factory located far from the city. Inside, a group of men waits for someone, reminiscing about the past. One of them recalls a time when his younger brother cried because he couldn't play baseball. He boasts about having dealt with the bullies who bother him, but now admits he feels ashamed of it. This is Goda's older brother, who calls him a weakling and asks if he's right. The bully appears with his friends and apologizes to his brother for the recent events. He begs his brother to get revenge for him, as he can't move properly after their last fight. The older man agrees, saying that weaklings getting arrogant really ticks him off. He introduces himself as Goda Kenji and reveals his rank B skill, Steel. The scene then cuts back to the front of the dungeon, where the rank S hero party is assembled. The leader outlines their strategy, a front line of 4, with a support team of 3 behind them. He instructs the female members to stock up on recovery items for the entire party. The masked woman observes from a distance, silently praising the young leader's efficiency. In the midst of the crowd, a student shoves others aside to get a closer look at the heroes. In the process, a girl is knocked to the ground, her belongings scattering in front of everyone. The other students stare, shocked by their classmates' blatant disrespect toward the heroes. The young woman thinks that the boy just disrespected rank as heroes and that he's done for. The student remains on the ground, mortified and unsure how to react to the situation. Just then, the party leader approaches her with a gentle smile and offers her a hand. The masked woman watches this unfold from afar with a serious, slightly suspicious expression. The hero apologizes for the collision, and other members of his party come over to help. The fallen girl thinks that they're nothing like the arrogant, high-ranking users she's used to. The party leader then turns to the crowd, thanking everyone for coming to show their support. He says he hopes the students will use what they witnessed today as motivation for their own futures. Our hero observes it all, wondering if achieving a high rank grants one the composure to care for others. A teacher then directs everyone to the main square for the school principal's address. The protagonist hangs back, lost in thought about everything he has just seen and heard. He feels a nagging sense of familiarity with the masked woman but can't quite place her. A narrator explains that the conquest of dungeons begins with the routines of everyday life. Our hero slips behind a tree to avoid listening to the principal's tedious speech. Suddenly, friend appears, having found him shirking his school duties. She teases him, saying he's more of a delinquent than she thought for skipping out like this. He asks if she's allowed to be here, and she replies that everyone already assumes she's sick. His friend then asks if he was staring at the masked woman in the crowd earlier. He confirms, and the girl assumes he's already smitten with the mysterious heroine. She then mutters under her breath that men always prefer women with larger, more impressive assets. Realizing what she just said, the young woman has a minor meltdown, utterly shocked at herself. She claims to see a wasp nest, exclaiming that if she gets stung, her own assets might grow. The young man shouts at her, pointing out that she's speaking in nonsensical fragments. At that moment, a voice from the forest cuts through their argument. The principal is in the middle of his speech about the importance of daily life in dungeon conquest. Abruptly, a massive fireball erupts in the area, and the students scream in terror. The students look on horrified, completely bewildered by what is happening. Our hero and his friend take cover behind a tree and see the principal is in grave danger. Goda's older brother snatches the megaphone from the principal and yells at the assembled students. He announces that the boring speech is over and that everyone will now pay attention to him. He then uses his ability to draw a line in the dirt separating the students. The crowd of students is terrified by the bully's raw display of power. One of them recognizes him as Go's older brother, the strongest student in the school. The aggressor then issues a challenge: if anyone wants to leave, they have to go through him. Godo pleads with his brother not to take it too far, but the older teen seems indifferent to his image. He says his brother is weak for caring about what other people think of him. The man then turns his attention to our hero, saying his little brother owes him a favor. He claims that trash like Shu isn't even on his radar, but messing with his family is a different matter. Holding the megaphone, he screams that he needs to make an example of what happens to those who defy him. The aggressor then declares that Shu will receive 10 punches from every single student at the school. Our hero watches the scene unfold in silence, expressions serious and tinged with concern. Goda's brother threatens to incinerate all the students if the young man doesn't reveal himself. His friend calls out his name worried, but he steels himself to step forward and face the bully. He emerges in front of the aggressor, who tells him to be a good little punching bag. The young man remains silent for a beat as dust swirls around his feet. With a cold gaze, he asks the bully, "Hey, we met before." The aggressor is completely thrown off by the unexpected question. He steps closer, getting in Shu's face and asking if he's being serious. In a flash, our hero delivers a powerful kick to the bully's face. The man is sent sprawling from the force of the blow, completely stunned. His friend is shocked by the sudden violence and cries out his name in alarm. He grabs her by the hand and tells her they need to run now. One of the students yells to the bully that the guy is getting away after abandoning them all. The aggressor retrieves his megaphone, his face a mask of pure rage and frustration. He then realizes the boy completely upstaged the performance he had so carefully prepared. A wicked smile spreads across his face as he stares after our hero, thinking this just got interesting. One of the students questions why the guy isn't showing up, sparking chaos. The drama club president laments that they did nothing to help their friend with the bullying. He then concludes it's precisely why they're now in this mess, being threatened by the bully. Our hero thinks that he was simply abandoned and left behind, that's all there is to it. The dense forest surrounds them as they flee from the turmoil. He realizes they aren't being pursued and considers using his jump skill to create more distance. But he dismisses the idea his friend still doesn't know he has powers. The girl is out of breath and suggests they slow down a bit to rest. He holds her hand, asking if she's all right as they navigate the woods. His friend says she understands his feelings and that no one can blame the upperclassmen. She continues, saying that even if they chose to ignore him, no one could fault them for it. The young man thinks that they would have left him for dead without a second thought. He squeezes her hand tighter and urges her to hang on for just a little longer. The girl looks at him with an expression that is both slightly embarrassed and deeply concerned. Their flight eventually leads them to a secluded lake in the heart of the dense forest. Suddenly, a shadow bursts from the trees, slamming into the ground right in front of them. Goda's brother appears, asking if they seriously thought they could escape him. Our hero is surprised he didn't expect the big boss himself to give chase. The bully claims the others were too slow, so he came to finish the job himself. The young man tells his friend to run while he creates a diversion for her to get away. He then points her toward the administration office, telling her to get help. He instructs her to call the fire department and police, telling them it's just a simple forest fire. The young man explains that the bully is after him, and if they split up, she's their only chance. He says he can't endanger the other students and must take a stand here. With a determined gaze, he tells his friend to go and get help as quickly as she can. The girl nods, tears streaming down her face, but says she needs to do one thing before she goes. She then activates her ability, placing a protective barrier around our hero's body. The young woman's power materializes a shield that will reduce incoming damage for a short time. She bids him farewell, telling him to stay safe as she sprints off to find help. With a smirk, the young man thanks her and turns to confront Goda's brother. The bully notes that her skill appears to be a defensive buff that mitigates damage. He then reveals his own steel ability, dismissing her protection as an inferior version. Our hero realizes the aggressor's power hardens his body to the consistency of metal. The young man accepts the challenge, saying he'll see if her ability is truly as useless as he claims. With that, he uses the storm's skill, launching a powerful gust of wind at his enemy. But the bully stands his ground, unfazed by the attack, and says that's not nearly enough. Suddenly, he realizes the wind attack was laced with droplets of water. The young man is engulfed by a massive wave of water, trapping him in the middle of the forest. Following that, a shower of fire rains down from the sky onto the trapped aggressor. A massive fairy explosion erupts, and the bully screams in pain from the combined assault. From a distance, the other students watch the spectacle, wondering why it has suddenly started to rain. The students look up at the sky in confusion, one of them noting the sudden downpour. The combination of water and fire results in a massive steam explosion within the forest. The aggressor now understands that the young man used the lake's water, that this was all part of his plan. The protagonist thinks to himself that he successfully lured the main target and the teachers can handle the rest. He says he doesn't care about those who ignored him, he cares about the people who were kind to him. Battered and bruised, the bully asks with a rage-filled expression if this was all part of Shu's script. Just then, the club president emerges, stating that bullying isn't for weaklings like him. In the next moment, his classmate lands a powerful punch square on the aggressor's face. The man is sent flying backward, crashing through several trees along the way. But the president injures his own hand in the process, clutching a tree in pain. The bully declares that the method doesn't matter, so long as the final objective is achieved. Our hero tells him to see for himself, and the aggressor turns with a confused expression. The young man admits he would have been in serious trouble if his friend hadn't used her protection skill on him. He compliments his opponent, acknowledging that he is, as rumored, the strongest rank B in the academy. With a smile, he adds that the ability isn't half bad and decides he'll take it for himself. His hand then glows with a blue energy as he learns the steal ability from his enemy. Meanwhile, the other students complain about the rain, and one yells that the fire is dying down. A boy in a hoodie tries to stoke the flames, but another snaps that he knows, clearly irritated. The president thinks this is bad. The fire was containing them well, but Sasai suddenly appears in mid-air. The girl then leaps over him, attacking with a powerful kick amidst the flames. Sasai is taken aback by the force of her own attack and the enemy's resilience. She and the president look toward the clearing and see that the fire has finally been extinguished. Amid the confusion, a teacher arrives, yelling for all students to retreat immediately. The blonde girl moves away, complaining that stomping on an annoying guy isn't giving her any satisfaction. With an irritated expression, she vows she won't accept being defeated by trash like him. Meanwhile, our hero understands the skill transforms skin into steel, boosting both attack and defense. The bully then reveals he already knew about the copy power and scoffs at the boy's incomplete version. Despite the provocation, she remains stoic, his arm still transformed into solid steel. The aggressor charges forward, declaring that using abilities requires true, innate talent. But the protagonist intercepts the punch with his steel arm, resulting in a deafening impact. The defensive force is so great that Gota's brother is sent reeling from the collision. The young man deduces that the skill has a hardness limit as it converts magic into physical matter. In a swift motion, he grabs the bully's arm, catching him completely off guard. Our hero explains that instead of diffusing the power, it's more effective to focus it on a single point. He then concentrates all his energy and lands a devastating punch to the enemy's gut. The protagonist glares at his opponent, his eyes filled with grim determination for the final blow. The young man's steel hand then shatters the aggressor's defense with surprising ease. But the bully just smirks and says he had no idea that weakness existed. He then clamps down on our hero's arm with unexpected and surprising strength. Shu stares at him, confused, asking what he means by that, not understanding his reaction. The bully holds him fast, and Shu asks what the point of all this is. Suddenly, the protagonist chokes, realizing he's been struck by an internal shockwave from the enemy. With that, the aggressor slams him to the ground and delivers a brutal punch straight to his face. Down and injured, he feels the sting of the attack, but his steel arm remains active and ready. Without a moment's pause, the man strikes him on the back and neck with a hard, precise blow. The impact sends our hero stumbling backward, unable to find his footing. The aggressor boasts that despite the hardness, he still holds the man in advantage of a rank B. Exhausted, the protagonist collapses to the ground, struggling to catch his breath to continue the fight. The bully complains that it's a pain when low rankers like him and his friend don't know their place. He then orders them to act like the weaklings they are because they're just getting in his way. Our hero thinks he could win this easily if he combined the steel skill with his other attacks. But he decides he must defeat him in the most humiliating way possible for the lesson to stick. The aggressor finds this amusing and challenges him to settle things with a fist fight. With a grin, he tells the young man to bring it on, even allowing him to aim for his vital points. With the challenge accepted, the protagonist charges toward his enemy, ready for a brawl. As he runs, he focuses, concentrating his power even further for the next strike. His steel arm appears to grow even larger and more formidable than before. He knows he needs to concentrate the skill to its absolute limit to break through his opponent's defense. The young man then throws a punch with all his strength, a massive impact of energy. But the aggressor just smirks and asks if a mosquito just landed on him. The bully then seizes our hero's arm with all his might, preparing a counter. He uses a special technique, leveraging all his weight to slam Shu into the ground. The force of the impact makes the protagonist spit, leaving him completely dazed. The aggressor sneers that no matter how much he copies the skill, it'll always be a cheap knockoff. He boasts that he's the only one who can truly master the skill and prepares to stomp on him. Mercilessly, the man grinds his boot onto the boy's head, further humiliating him. But our hero manages to roll away from a kick and gets back to his feet, ready to fight on. The bully taunts him, saying he never stood a chance and that he even let him target his vital spots. With a look of grim determination, Shu rises and states that the conditions have finally been met. The aggressor is confused, and the young man asks him what the name of that move he just used was. He then recites the bizarre name of the move the aggressor had shouted before attacking. With that, the protagonist mocks him, asking if he really came up with a name for his attack. The aggressor is enraged by the taunt and clenches his fists, his face a mask of pure hatred. With fury etched on his face, he calls him a wretch and prepares to charge again. The man rushes forward, screaming with rage at the humiliation. With a cold expression, our hero calls him a fool and readies his counterattack. This time, the protagonist's punch pierces through the steel defense and connects squarely with the bully. The blow tears a hole through the aggressor's stomach, shattering his protective skill. The man screams in agony and collapses to his knees, utterly defeated by the single strike. He can't believe his attacks were useless and wonders how this could have happened. Our hero then asks if he wants to know why his attack power suddenly skyrocketed. The aggressor looks up at him confused, and the young man says he misjudged the situation. The bully is even more bewildered, and the protagonist reveals that it was his defense that was augmented. In a flashback, he explains the first punch activated his friend's protection skill. Shu then clarifies that while the bully was letting his guard down, he was rapidly increasing his proficiency. With an energy sphere glowing in his hand, he reminds the aggressor that he called her skill trash. The man is stunned by the revelation and breaks into a cold sweat, speechless. With that, our hero declares that the inferior trash skill was actually the bully's own. Defeated, the aggressor slumps to the ground, and Shu tells him to swear he will never bother them again. But the man just clicks his tongue, his face a mask of pure hatred and frustration. Our protagonist then reads his steel fist and threatens him, saying this is the end of the line. Suddenly, a new figure appears in the clearing, interrupting the confrontation between the two students. The young man glances over and is completely shocked by the scene before him. Goat appears holding his friend as a hostage and apologizes with a sickeningly sweet smile. With his brother defeated on the ground, Shu screams the girl's name, desperate. The blonde teen then threatens him, saying he knows exactly what he needs to do to save her. Our hero is frozen, gritting his teeth in pure, impotent rage. Even in peril, his friend pleads with him not to worry about her and to save himself. The young man raises his hands in surrender as she cries out his name, worried sick. But with a grim look, he says he can't do that and accuses Goat of abandoning everyone. Goat to his brother struggles to his feet, saying the boy did something unnecessary, but that it was well played. He then yells that it's better than being seen as low, rank trash by everyone there. Meanwhile, the protagonist's friend remains a hostage, her expression fraught with worry. With his hands up, the young man desperately searches for a way out of this impossible situation. He continues with his hands raised, wondering if there's any possible way to escape. Abruptly, a mysterious woman with blue hair materializes, attacking the aggressors with her sword. The masked figure moves with blinding speed, ready to put an end to the chaos. Her strike hits Goat's brother squarely, and the man cries out in pain from the surprise assault. The blonde teen is utterly shocked by the scene, and the young man's friend looks on in disbelief. The woman tells them to relax, as she struck them with the flat of her blade to avoid serious injury. But she reveals her sword has no blunt side, she simply enchanted it with concussive force. Our hero recognizes her instantly. She's a member of the Rank S hero party. She explains she sensed a Rank B magical signature and decided to investigate as a precaution. Seeing the danger has passed, his friend calls his name, her voice filled with relief. Suddenly, the masked woman dashes forward and embraces our hero tightly, calling his name. The young man and his friend are completely stunned by the heroine's unexpected display of affection. With a smile, she says she knew it was him and holds him even tighter with joy. Utterly bewildered, he stammers her name, wondering if she's really who he thinks she is. She then removes her mask, revealing herself to be Mio, a magic sword user. With that, a memory surfaces. A young Shu sits alone outside his house. In the memory, a girl approaches and asks if he's the boy who lives there. She introduces herself, explaining she just moved in next door. With a warm smile, the young woman extends her hand, revealing she's the older girl who first befriended him. The little boy thinks that if she hadn't been there, his life would have turned out very differently. He admits that his spirit would have been broken by his own father's relentless cruelty. The scene returns to the present, showing the two aggressors tied up together in the forest. The protagonist says he's amazed that she became a member of a rank S party. She embraces him again, teasing that he's grown so much since they last saw each other. At this, the young man glances over at his friend Sasai, who is watching the scene from a distance. The girl is completely shocked, her expression darkening as she witnesses their closeness. Embarrassed, he asks her to let go, and the heroine asks what they should do with their captives. But the bully insists this isn't over, claiming they only got the drop on them because they were careless. He then screams that they'll be back for revenge, and next time it will be different. The aggressor continues, claiming the boy only went through some kind of cheap trick. The protagonist's friend observes the entire exchange in silence, looking deeply thoughtful. Our hero thinks to himself that it's painfully obvious the bully's just weak, regardless. The man threatens him, telling him to watch his back at night because his friends will come for him. With a sinister smile, he warns that they won't just target him, but the girl and her entire family as well. In an instant, our hero strikes them with a powerful blast of green wind. The aggressors vanish, and he states that he could have defeated them far more easily from the start. The hero looks at him surprised, not understanding the young man's sudden, ruthless action. His friend is shocked, wondering if her senpai truly possesses an ability. He then explains that he held back his power merely to demonstrate the vast difference in their levels. With a dark glare, he warns that if the aggressor ever bares his fangs again, he will be eliminated. The two thugs are utterly terrified by the protagonist's unexpected and chilling threat. Our hero's friend continues to watch, her expression filled with deep concern about the situation. Mayo states that high rankers are protected by law, but that doesn't grant them the right to disturb the peace. She then threatens them, saying that as a rank A, she will take appropriate measures against them. Goda's brother stammers in fear, assuring the high-rank heroine that he understands. With the situation resolved, the group stands in silence as the aggressors are taken into custody. It's explained that those who rely solely on their rank are inherently weak against the truly powerful in society. As the bullies are led away, he thinks he wanted to demonstrate a clear difference in power. He then reflects that changing society isn't so simple, and Maya would always be out of his league. The protagonist thinks he never imagined he would see his childhood friend again. The scene shifts to our hero's apartment building on a very sunny morning. The young man opens his apartment door, still looking half asleep. Suddenly, Mayo is there, holding a plate of breakfast and greeting him with a cheerful smile. He is completely floored to see her inside his home, acting as if it's perfectly normal. Abruptly, she asks if he started liking mayonnaise, which only adds to his confusion. We then see several meals laid out on the table, implying they used to eat together often. The scene changes, showing the blonde girl at the breakfast table with a sour expression. Our hero and his friend, Sasai, are also present, and the atmosphere is thick with awkward tension. With everyone gathered, the young man wonders how on earth the situation ended up this bizarre. It's explained that this all began a few days prior, when Mayo first came to visit him. In a flashback, Shu asks if clearing the Rank S dungeon will really take so long. Mayo explains that the dungeon's gimmicks are unique, and the guild expects to be stationed in the city for about a month. The protagonist is confused by the term gimmicks, wondering if she means she hasn't encountered the monsters. He thinks back to the enemy he faced, questioning if something like that is considered trivial for a Rank S team. The heroine mentions she was surprised to learn he was living alone now. The young man replies that she can probably figure out the reason why. At this, his childhood friend just nods silently as she washes dishes in the sink. He remarks that a lot can change in 7 years and that they were just kids back then. Maya then comments that he has also changed a great deal and all for the better. She then catches him off guard by asking when he became able to use abilities. The young man knew she would ask, but his friend tells him it's okay if he doesn't want to talk about it. He then reveals it's not that he's hiding it, but he fears the consequences if people were to find out. A memory of the masked man flashes in his mind, and he feels an instinctual need to keep him a secret. Unsure of what to say, the protagonist simply holds his mug, remaining silent for a moment. With a serious expression, Meal reveals that his manic capacity is at AB level, possibly even a level. Our hero is completely shocked by this revelation and listens with rapt attention. She explains that rank of power comes with immense responsibility, and that guilds fiercely compete for such talent. Mayoden tells the protagonist he will need to consider how he intends to use this great power he possesses. This leaves Shu deep in thought, wondering how he should wield his newly discovered ability. He questions if anything would truly change if he simply went around beating everyone up with his powers. His childhood friend watches him in silence, seemingly understanding his internal conflict. After a long pause, he says he has finally made a decision about what to do. Abruptly, she makes a proposal, asking if she can come over to make dinner for him every day. The young man is surprised and asks how that would work with her duties in the Rank S party. She explains her job is quite relaxed with fixed hours, no overtime, and 2 days off a week. Our hero comments with a deadpan expression that it sounds like a very healthy work environment. The heroine explains that outside of work, she'd just be stuck in a hotel, and she'd rather look after him anyway. She then continues, saying there's another reason she wants to stay close. The young woman confesses that she feels a bit uncomfortable and out of place at the hotel with the others. With a smile, she says she feels much more at ease doing things at his place. The young man chuckles, remarking that she still is down to earth as he remembers. The scene then transitions to the drama club as he thinks about the problems he needs to resolve. He then reveals to his friends that he can now use a special and unique ability. The club president is stunned, asking if his friend truly has an ability now. He gets excited, asking this means they can all join the main drama club together. The protagonist cuts him off with a serious look, saying it's not that simple. The protagonist states that he would prefer to continue with their own drama club, if possible. His friends are taken aback, speechless at the young man's unexpected declaration. He apologizes for being selfish, but explains he wants to keep his skill under wraps for the time being. With a smile, he reminds them that the time they've spent together is also incredibly precious to him. The young man clarifies it's not just about acting, this place itself has become important to him. With a relieved smile, Sacy thanks him, saying she's overjoyed with his decision. She then mentions that he's been making some pretty scary faces around school lately. At this, the young man just says her name, looking a bit flustered by the comment. He apologizes and gently pats his friend's head to reassure her. Suddenly, the blonde girl appears in the doorway, while the club president watches from a distance. She accuses him of harassment, leaving the protagonist completely embarrassed and flustered. The young man turns and asks what she's doing here, and she shoves a stack of papers into his hands. He takes the documents and asks what they are, and she replies that it's obviously a petition. She explains she went from classroom to classroom gathering signatures for the drama club's survival. The protagonist is stunned by the sheer number of signatures she managed to collect. The girl then reveals their class is sharply divided following the incident with Goda. She explains that some feel caught in the crossfire, while others are grateful he took a stand. With a look of contempt, she concludes that either way, they're all a bunch of pains. Sasai watches the scene silently, clearly bothered by the blonde girl's presence. She then mutters that the word tyrannical seems to be a perfect fit for the blonde girl. The purple-haired girl glares at the blonde, her arms crossed defiantly. Sasai then accuses her of also doing terrible things to their senpai in the past. The blonde girl fires back, asking what her relationship to the protagonist is that gives her the right to meddle. With that, the two begin to bicker, and the young man tries to mediate between them. Suddenly, Mayo appears at the door and calls his name, halting the girl's argument. With a smile and a bag of groceries, she greets him, saying she finally found him. Everyone is surprised, and the protagonist asks why his childhood friend is at the school. She explains she was out buying ingredients for dinner and thought they could walk home together. The two other girls are shocked, wondering what she means by dinner and walk home together. With a warm smile, Mio invites his friends to join them if they'd like to have dinner as well. The two girls just stare at her, suspicious and speechless at the unexpected invitation. And it's explained that this is how they all ended up in this awkward situation around the dinner table. The blonde girl then remarks that he has a visiting wife, making the young man flustered. With a look of disdain, she calls him a beast, saying he's less than a normal human. This triggers a jealous outburst from the purple-haired friend, who grips her fork tightly. With a crazed glint in her eye, she says she's a good cook and suggests cooking with the flesh of the beast. The blonde girl finds this idea intriguing, remarking that they might get along very well. Meanwhile, the club president observes from afar, thinking he made the right call by declining the dinner invitation. The protagonist panics and looks to Mio for help, but she just watches with an amused smile. With a tranquil expression, she says she's feeling quite relieved by this whole situation. The protagonist is confused by her response, and his childhood friend moves closer to him. With a gentle smile, she asks if he's enjoying himself right now. With all of this, the young man is left speechless, a look of surprise on his face, unable to answer her question. The scene then shifts to later that night, and he reflects that he couldn't answer her at the time. He says goodbye to his friends in front of his apartment building and heads inside. The protagonist thinks that society is still rife with discrimination, and nothing has really changed. Sitting in his living room, he examines the petition the blonde girl managed to put together for the club. He realizes that other students are actually grateful to him for standing up to the bullies. Holding the petition, he feels a sense that his life is finally about to change for the better. But a month goes by and the city sky is gray and rainy, a bad omen. The day of the rank S party's departure is approaching, and the young man stares thoughtfully out the window. Suddenly, his cell phone rings, and he answers, not recognizing the number. With the phone to his ear, his expression turns to one of utter shock at the news he receives. He bolts out of his house in a panic, dashing across the rainy street without a second thought. On the other end of the line, Mayo's father reveals that the young woman had returned home some time ago. He then says she's currently in the ICU at the general hospital, and the young man sprints to meet him. The father explains that surgery saved her life, but her condition remains critical. His voice cracking, he reveals they found evidence of physical abuse on his daughter's body. The protagonist is stunned, struggling to understand what this could possibly mean. Suddenly, he hears a scream from the other end of the line and calls out for Mayo's father, alarmed. The screams persist, and then the line goes dead, leaving the protagonist in a state of sheer panic. He turns toward the hospital, wondering if something terrible is happening to Mayo's family. With his eyes filling with tears, he runs as fast as he can toward the hospital. Using his jump skill, he recalls that the ICU is on the building's 5th floor. Inside, he finds Mio's parents bound and held hostage by a mysterious man. Her father says he'd heard rumors but never imagined that information manipulation was this real. The mother then asks if they are going to be eliminated to protect the image of the high rankers. The man in the helmet tells him to be quiet, and in return, he won't take their lives. He explains that they have significant social standing, which would make simply eliminating them complicated. Suddenly, a dark energy envelopes one of the hostages, who cries out in pain. The man reveals his skill allows him to extract and erase people's memories. He then warns that memories are treacherous and can resurface with the slightest trigger. With that, the man prepares to wipe away every memory they have of their daughter. He proposes to place them in separate facilities to guarantee absolute secrecy. Mayo's father is aghast, realizing the lengths they will go to protect the high rankers. The man says they can appoint a new president for their company from their new homes. He then promises them generous state protection in exchange for their cooperation. Maya's mother becomes hysterical, screaming she would rather perish than live like that. Her husband looks at her with a grave and worried expression, unsure how to respond. In a cold tone, the man reiterates that eliminating them would be too much of a hassle. Suddenly, our hero appears in the room, cloaked in a green aura, and points at the man in the helmet. He explains his skill can't erase sound, but it can mask his presence within a storm. The young man uses the wind to muffle his movements, allowing him to approach undetected. The sound of the wind and shattering glass completely camouflages his entrance. He then prepares to use the ambient noise to conceal a surprise attack against the enemy. Mio's mother sees him and desperately screams for him to stop, not to do anything reckless. The protagonist is surprised, not understanding the woman's panicked reaction. The man in the helmet turns to face him, looking slightly surprised by his arrival. Maya's father then urges him to stand down, warning that they will be hunted if they try to escape. Our hero is shocked by the man's calm demeanor and tries to snap him back to reality. The agent remarks that he's far too calm, and that honestly, this whole situation has become quite tedious. He then states that any resistance is futile, as he has already erased Mayo's memories. With a look of pure, unadulterated hatred, Shu glares at the man, refusing to believe what he just heard. The girl's parents are utterly devastated, speechless at the terrible news. With a cruel smile, the agent says that if everyone forgets, then no one will feel alone in the end. He then reveals the girl should have just endured it all in silence instead of speaking out. Maya's parents stare at him with looks of pure hatred and disgust at his words. The man claims she left a gap in their combat strength and is now nothing but social refuse. In a callous tone, he compares her to household waste that the government must collect and dispose of. Maya's father is enraged by his words, calling him a wretch and a disgusting parasite. The agent says his anger will fade and that the only joy his job brings is watching this unfold. With a look of pure hatred, Shu stares at the man who has shattered the lives of his friend and her family. Outside the hospital, the young man leans against a pillar, utterly desolate. People walk past him with their umbrellas, oblivious to the young man's pain and suffering. Two women give him a pitying glance but quickly continue on their way in the rain. Clutching his head, he wonders why everything had to turn out this way. He recalls the signs of violence on Mayo's body and deduces the culprit must be someone close to her. The agent's words echo in his mind, and he starts to piece together the grim puzzle. Suddenly, he remembers the hero's slogan, "Who match power for the people," and it all clicks into place. The young man looks up at a billboard featuring the leader of the Rank S party, and a terrible suspicion takes root. He refuses to believe that the hero everyone idolizes could be responsible for something so heinous. On another billboard, other members of the party are depicted, supposedly protectors of the people. The protagonist knows he has no concrete evidence, but the seed of doubt has been planted. Two female students walk by, gushing about how the party leader is a true hero to them. Two men in suits also praise the heroes, saying the country is safe in their hands. A man in a hoodie remarks that it would be great if all high rankers were like them. This reveals the public's adoration for the rank as heroes, whose status is protected by the system itself. The young man clenches his fists in rage and disgust as he grasps the truth behind the facade. With a determined glare, he declares this is a repulsive sight and he will do something about it. The scene then transitions to a quiet, empty hospital corridor. Back in his apartment, the young man thinks the past month feels like a complete fabrication. Suddenly, he notices something on his table and moves closer to inspect it. With a look of surprise, he realizes it's a letter that was left for him. He recognizes Mio's handwriting and finds a mask placed next to the envelope. The letter is addressed to him, and the young man picks it up to read his friend's message. In the letter, she jokes that by the time he reads this, she'll be long gone, just like in the manga. She apologizes for her abrupt departure and warns him not to investigate the reason, as it's too dangerous. The young man wonders if the agent who erased memories holds the answers. In the letter, Mio reminisces about the day they first met as small children. With a fond smile, she writes that in reality, he was the one who saved her, not the other way around. She explained she was buckling under the pressure of being a rank A, and her father suggested a change of environment. The scene then shifts to the city, showing the towering skyscrapers where she used to live. In the letter, his friend asks if he remembers when they used to pretend to act out plays. In their games, little Shu was always the hero, complete with his red cape and mask. Meanwhile, little Mia was the hero and he would always save. The young man says he remembers, and that time was a true salvation for him as well. She then reveals she started wearing a mask to be like him and asks him to keep it. His friend writes that every day with him was fun because he never cared about skill ranks. With a determined hand, she writes that he has always been her one true hero. In the letter, the young woman says that knowing him, he'll probably be angry with her for this. An image of two hands touching accompanies the letter's special request. She pleads with him to please not hate the world, despite everything that has happened. With a sad smile, the young woman writes that a true hero must protect the world from all evil. Our hero bows his head, his expression dark and sorrowful as he reads his friend's words. She reminds him that his world is now filled with many important things and people. His friend urges him to focus on those people and not on the corrupt underbelly of society. With her eyes closed, she writes that she prays from the bottom of her heart for his happiness. But the protagonist crumples the letter, saying he can't honor her request. He thinks that forgetting everything is exactly what those monsters would want. Holding the mask, he declares he doesn't need to be a hero to protect this society. With a dark expression, he says he'd rather be the clown who brings the whole stage crashing down. The scene shifts to a batting cage where Goda is practicing his swing. A classmate approaches, saying he has important news about a certain girl. He reveals that the woman who put the rank a user in her place is now in critical condition at the hospital. His friend then shows him the news on his phone, suggesting this is the perfect chance to get revenge on Shu. Goda appears thoughtful, and his classmate waits eagerly for his response. The friend is confused by his silence, and the bully says he's not concerned about the woman. He then reveals that his real worry now is our protagonist. The bully explains that low rankers can't see it, but Shu has a murderous aura about him. With that, the scene shifts to the school, the sky a somber and heavy shade of gray. Back at the drama club, the president announces he has submitted the signatures to the school board. He thanks them for their help, saying that even with a small number, they did everything they could for the club. Suddenly, his friend calls out to the protagonist, asking what he's doing. With intense focus, our hero is at a sewing machine, creating something. He explains he's borrowing the machine to craft a costume for himself. With a smile, the young man says he couldn't just sit around, so he's focusing on his chances of survival. Sasai thinks that even with Mio in critical condition, her senpai is acting as if everything is fine. The scene shifts to a park at night, where a group of thugs is attacking a fallen man. They scream for the stinky old man to get out of the park, kicking him mercilessly as he lies on the ground. One of the aggressors then asks if they seriously believe he does this just to relieve stress. Suddenly, a blonde man appears, introducing himself as the strongest and most beautiful ranked B in the city. He then announces his organization has been commissioned for environmental beautification project. With a smile, he orders the homeless people to leave the city for its purification. A mysterious voice then asks if he would like some help with that purification. The blonde man turns confused as our hero appears in his new costume wearing Bao's mask. He then asks if the newcomer is a friend of the old man, or if he's just feeling pity. With an air of superiority, the man declares he is the strongest person in this city. In a flash, Shu strikes the aggressor with a powerful purple magic ball. The blow connects squarely with the man's face, sending him flying from the force of the impact. The other thugs are shocked and scream the name of their fallen leader. With that, he uses his skill, unleashing a powerful energy blast that takes down all the remaining thugs. The group's leader tries to negotiate, offering him an executive position in his city-wide operation. Even injured, the man says that cleansing the city of low-rank people brings an incredible feeling. Out of patience, our hero delivers a devastating punch to the aggressor's face, knocking him flat. The masked figure then agrees with his statement, saying that it is indeed true for him. The elderly man who is being assaulted is left on the ground, groaning in pain amidst the chaos. All the other aggressors are now scattered across the ground, completely defeated. The scene then shifts to a mother and her young daughter walking down the street at night. Suddenly, the little girl stops and looks up at the sky with a surprised expression. High above the rooftops, a mysterious bat-like silhouette soars through the night sky. The little girl recognizes the figure and calls him Mr. Bat with a look of curiosity. The protagonist thinks they said if he had the power to fight alone, he could have saved Mayo's parents. He reflects that he also could have saved his friend and exposed the corrupt rankers behind it all. With a fiery glint in his eyes, he vows to drag them all onto his stage and make them pay for their crimes.